Welcome to another Facebook Live, Lunch, and Learn with the Center for African American Health. My name is Charles Mathis. I'm the Workforce Readiness Instructor responsible for rolling out the program to the community. For those of you who might be unfamiliar with the work of the Center for African American Health, we have been in the community for more than 20 years with a focus and commitment to improving the health and well-being of the African American community. We offer workforce readiness, community-based, evidence-based, disease prevention, and disease management programs, events, and services. Now you can learn more about our work and our programs by visiting the website at CAAHealth.org. Today, we will focus on the very important topic of workforce readiness and what youth and adults need to know as the workplace evolves. While seeking out all opportunities for our clients, our efforts is to bond and build strong ties, which leads to partnering not only with businesses owned and operated by African American community members, but we also want to participate with minority and women-owned businesses as a priority for job placement opportunities. The Denver Economic Development and Opportunity Office recently awarded the center a grant that will allow us to help with job search training, skill and interest assessment, resume preparation, strategies to overcome barriers to employment are just to name a few. Our goal is to assist and place more than 50 individuals by the end of the year. Joining me today is Derrick Watson, Program Manager for Denver Economic Development and Opportunity Office, who currently serves as Project Liaison for the City and County of Denver's Construction Career Pilot. Derrick has more than 35 years of experience in all levels of higher education, and we're excited that he's joining us to share his expertise. So as we move through today's sessions, please feel free to type in your questions and we will address them if time permits. So once again, I would just like to say welcome, Derrick. And Derrick, we are all aware that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed how companies are promoting jobs and seeking candidates. Now, safety concerns have eliminated or reduced numerous job fairs and in-person interviews. So Derrick, with that being said, how are companies currently posting jobs and how are they handling interviews?
You know, that's a good question, Charles. Thank you for the question. They're going in a more virtual sense. I know the city and county, we're hosting job fairs virtually, and what we're doing is we're hosting slots of times. For example, Amazon may be interested in someone. They'll have a slot from 8:30 to 9 for people to call in to learn about jobs at Amazon. There may be, GH Phipps, a construction company, who may be looking for people, and they may be on the line from 9 to 10. So there's some out of the box kind of thinking that's happening to try to combat the COVID-19 impact related to workforce, and we're really capitalizing on the technology, honestly.
Oh, okay.
And it's a little bit of an adjustment too. I will say that as well.
Right. Okay. So when applying for a job, what information should a candidate already have in place?
I think first and foremost, understanding what the qualifications are to do that job is most important. And asking yourself, well, do I meet those qualifications? Some of the things that will help you with that is developing your resume. Having a resume that outlines your skills and abilities, having a document like a certification or a license is also a way to kind of qualify yourself for opportunities. But I think first and foremost, you want to get a sense of if you're really qualified to do that job.
Okay. All right. Prospective employers often ask for references. So who should applicants list if they don't have prior work experiences?
You know, references, you can be personal references. You know, somebody that can vouch for your character and your integrity. And those are things that honestly every employer is going to be interested in. And so you may not have lots of work experience, but I'm sure they're through mentors or through family, friends, churches. You know, your community is where you get your references from, and people who know you and not just know you, but know your family. Those are the best types of references. So to me, just because you may not have a lot of work experience with references, those personal references can be worth its weight in gold. So I'd encourage folks to always be mindful of that.
Excellent. Okay, so what are some of the most common questions that are asked during a job interview?
You know, and it sounds so cavalier, like, well, you know, and you know, you think, well, what do I say? How do I answer that question? And I advise people to think about it in three ways. You know, think about the personal you, what your character is, and you know, things that address that, as well as things and characteristics and habits or skills that you may have that relate to that job. You always want to tie it back to that job and how who you are is tied to being successful in that job. You know what I mean? That you can bring something to that job to make it better.
Okay.
And some of the other questions, and these are basic kinds of things, like,
right,
what are your strengths and weaknesses?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'll start with this. Everybody has a weakness. I don't think anyone's perfect. Any man is perfect. I'll say that, or woman.
In person, yes.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna have weaknesses, and so it's not to say that you don't have weaknesses. It's more important to talk about what you're doing to address those weaknesses, to acknowledge the fact, you know what, I may you know, procrastinate a little more than I should. And so in order for me to not do that,
Mm-hmm.
I have a very tight calendar. I have lots of appointments. I have lots of things that I need to do, because if I'm not active and engaged, I have a tendency to perhaps procrastinate. And just about everybody else does too.
I was going to say, welcome to the club.
Yeah, but the key is you're acknowledging it and realizing that is a weakness.
Okay.
You know, so strengths, you know, once again, you got to know the job. You got to understand, do your research, understand the company that you're working for, and how perhaps their mission ties into your values. So when somebody asks you about your strengths, make sure you tie those strengths to the core mission of the organization. So that requires you to do some research. That requires you to know something about the people you're interviewing with.
Excellent.
And last and probably most important, it's the order in which you talk about strengths and weaknesses. I would talk about my weaknesses first and end on my strengths, because that's ending on a very strong and positive element of your characteristics. So that hopefully that answers your questions.
Oh, most definitely. So what types of jobs do you anticipate will experience tremendous growth in the coming years?
Well, you know, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's really a big part of why I'm here today, is to talk about the future as it relates to employment in particular industries. And I brought a presentation that I'd like to share with folks that kind of puts it into context about employment in the area that I'm working in. Can we bring up that slide? All right. Perfect. Perfect. As Charles said, I work for the city and county of Denver, and we are a part of a construction careers pilot program, which is really designed, if you can move to the next slide, is really designed to help combat what we see in the construction industry. And what we are learning is we need about 100,000 people to work in vacancies over the next 5 years in construction alone. That's almost a 40% increase from where it is today. And there are a couple of reasons for that. I think there's a nexus that we're experiencing in construction, because we have a lot of folks, like most industries, who are retiring, who are leaving the industry. But we also have a tremendous amount of growth in the industry. And so with that growth coupled with individuals leaving the industry, that's created a huge chasm of need. And so this is one of the reasons why the city and county has developed the pilot that I'm working in, is to address that chasm, is really to develop and understand the best practices to get people connected to careers in construction. Next slide. As I said, our pilot is a 3-year pilot, and we're in our 2nd year. And what the city has done is put workforce requirements on city projects. Not all of the city projects have these workforce requirements, but some of them do. And we're looking at, right now, about $1 billion in construction over the next 3 to 5 years in the Denver metro area. We have $60 million out at Denver International Airport, at DIN. We have almost a $500 million investment in National Western Center. The Elevate Denver bonds, things like the zoo and the art museum, you know, the convention center. These are all facilities that are getting a facelift from the city that will require substantial employment. Next slide. So as a part of the requirement for employers, they have to have 4 elements. The first thing is, obviously, they have to have a point of contact. I mean, with the city, we want to be able to talk to somebody about our workforce requirements. There are particular populations that we know who are typically underserved. Our veterans, those who may be on TANF, our homeless population. And so, as you can see, there's a population that we're really trying to focus on and trying to serve. And what we're requiring of the employer is 15% of all of the construction hours be performed by these targeted populations in apprenticeship programs. And that's a key element that I want to talk about in construction. Apprenticeships gives you the ability to earn and learn at the same time. It's sort of like going to college, but instead of you paying the college is paying you. You know, so that's an important element to have a sustainable career. Because we're not talking about jobs, Charles. I know where you're going. You're talking about sustainable careers for our community. And this is one of the ways we can get there. Let's go on to the next slide. As I stated before, there are a number of projects that are currently underway that people can find employment with. The city has a number of construction avenues, but there's also the federal piece of this. Now, I don't think anyone out there can drive down I-70 and not notice the construction going on. And that's a federal project. And that also generates opportunities for those in our communities that we're connected to. But I'm just talking about the city today. 16th Street Mall is another federal project that will create substantial employment opportunities for our communities. Next slide. Just to kind of give you an idea of the magnitude of what I'm sharing with you. On 8 projects that we've monitored, we have about 5,000 workers on those projects. Of those workers, almost a little over 1,600 are new hires. And we look at where our employees are coming from, and the vast majority of them are coming from Denver. But we have other zip codes that are coming in to play as well, because quite honestly, the cost of living in Denver is so high. Many people who work or initially start working can't afford to live in Denver, and they live elsewhere and commute into Denver. And I don't want to skip over this, but this is an important element as well. On average, our projects, their wages are over $30. The city has prevailing wage. And so if you're working on city projects, there's a certain amount of wage that you will be paid. And so not only are these sustainable jobs, but these jobs are high paying jobs for some of our folks in the community. Next slide. Now, how do we do this? How do we accomplish connecting these people to the jobs and to the opportunities? The platform that we use is a partnership through Work Now. And I know our technical folks will put that Work Now website on the chat. If you're interested in getting a job or getting connected to employment quickly, that's the place to go. And as you can see, they have a number of folks enrolled. They really specialize in training. And I can't emphasize that enough, because we're at a crossroads in our lives, many of us. And we may need to think about, okay, what do I do next? And a part of what you do next is going to require some level of training. And this program, Work Now, has funds to provide you for getting trained. They have funds for boots, gas cards, food. They want to eliminate any barrier that you have to really work towards a career in construction. Next slide. If you've got any questions, here's my email. Feel free to email me. That's the best way to contact me. And let me close in saying thank you to Charles and the Center for African American Institute. I can't say enough how important it is that our community is aware of these opportunities. And Charles, I commit to your organization, not just to do this Facebook live learning, but the work really starts after that point, making those connections and really facilitating those contacts between our organizations. So I'm excited about the potential, and I look forward to really working with you guys.
Great. And how are we doing time-wise? Does anyone know where we're at, or? Okay. Well, I was wondering if we could take perhaps a couple of questions that you can answer for us, Derrick.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. The program that you're involved with, this construction program, how long does the program last, and what are some of the requirements for signing up for the program itself?
The program varies depending on the type of path you take. And some, like apprenticeships, some of them are 3 years, some of them are 4 years, some of them, some electricians go 5 years. And so, it really depends on the path that you're taking. But one thing I think is important to say is if you want to pursue a career in construction, cannabis and construction don't mix. I know we live in an environment where that's legal, and you have every right to do it. But in the construction area, and Charles, you said it early on, safety is their biggest issue. And so they're not going to tolerate any substance abuse, either drugs or alcohol. So that's one thing I really try to make people aware of.
Okay. And what would you state if an individual has a felony record? Will they be disbarred or not allowed to participate in these programs?
No, you can participate in the programs. The Work Now program, they have special support for those that have been justice involved. Now, for city projects, we don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Federal projects, however, do have some restrictions related to those that may have been formerly incarcerated. So those projects do sometimes come with some of those restrictions. It depends on kind of where the project is. It kind of depends on, the type of felony or type of, situation for the individual. So that's, so no, if you have a background, that should not deter you from pursuing opportunities in the construction area.
Excellent. And I'll go with one more question. How worried should individuals be when it comes to having access to internet if future employers are moving towards that online application process?
That's an excellent question. And my colleague Roger Cobb could probably answer it much more eloquently than I could. But I will say that is something that has been discussed at the highest levels of our leadership. I know Roger has brought that to attention of our executive director, and he has championed moving or trying to narrow that digital divide, because that's what we're talking about, is that digital divide. And that's tough. And in the construction industry, it's especially difficult because that's not the norm for them. I mean, most construction jobs are got because you knew somebody's cousin whose brother was working on the job. Right. It's really the word of mouth. Yeah. And so the industry itself is evolving into this technical area. And so they don't have it all figured out either. But right. That larger point of that digital divide is something that I know is real, and something I know that has been brought forward to the highest levels of leadership in Denver.
Excellent. Well, everyone, I am sorry to state that we are out of time, but we would like to thank Derrick Watson once again for his time and also consideration. We do appreciate all the information you have provided, Derrick, today for our viewers. And please note, this video will be available along with other information on the center's website at CAAHealth.org. Once again, that is CAAHealth.org. We'll also be sending out more information about the center's Workforce Readiness program within the following weeks. So please be sure to check your email as we extend invites and welcome your participation. Once again, we do thank the Denver Economic Development and Opportunity Office for their generous grant, which gives us the opportunity here at the Center for African American Health to work with many of you pertaining to workforce needs. And please know we will be taking a break from our Facebook Live Lunch and Learn series next week, as everyone will be taking time off to enjoy the holiday weekend. However, we will be back with a new topic the week of July 6th. Derrick, at this time, are any closing remarks?
No, I just, once again, thank you guys so much for the opportunity. And like I say, the real work starts when we turn this camera off, because we can do the webinars and talk about it, but okay. want you to know I'm committed to you and your organization to make what we're talking about a reality.
Absolutely. We do appreciate you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Once again, this is Mr. Mathis with the Center for African American Health. Stay safe and healthy, and God bless everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Oh, absolutely.